Depth usage is once again going to be a topic of conversation for the Tar Heels this upcoming season. And specifically on today's mailbag episode, how will it affect recruiting?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, July 5th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Hope you all had a great 4th of July. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and redeem code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, coming up on the show today, it's going to be a mailbag episode. Super fun. Great questions coming in from all you guys. If your question didn't make it in or you'd like to submit another one, you can join us in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. There's a mailbag channel in there. You can always email us, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Love to interact with you there. So some of the questions today are going to be about depth usage. Players that'll kind of play two different roles for the Tar Heels this year, rules on reclassifying, and several super fun like July 4th summer conversations. We've got some fun lists with that, so make sure you dive in because I'd love to hear your answers too, and that'll be super fun. All right, let's get right into it. Edward Beth from the Locked On Tar Heels Discord says, quote, I know we are all expecting Coach to go deeper with the bench this year, but a lot seem to think he's still going to go just 8 deep and possibly a 9th with minimum minutes. Do y'all think that may impact us keeping players or getting high school commits if that does happen? End quote. Well, let's just start here, Edward Beth. Depth will be a conversation yet again because it has been each of Coach Davis's first 3 years, and it's still in kind of direct contrast to how Coach Williams did things. If you look at the numbers on KenPom, Carolina has ranked 348th, 360th, and 332nd in terms of bench usage compared to the rest of Division I, and there's like 362 schools in Division I. So in the bottom like 30, basically every year of Coach Davis's tenure in terms of bench usage. And basically we're just looking at percentage of minutes played by the bench. So yes, first off, it is going to be a conversation again. Part of the thing is that in college basketball, you really truly only need an 8-man rotation, particularly coming down the stretch of a season and in your biggest games. I'm of the mind, however, that it's in your best interest to use 9 to 10 players, particularly early in the season, and I'll give you 2 reasons why, and then we'll get to your more specific question about recruiting, Edward Beth. Number 1 reason to use more depth, particularly early in the season, is to work at keeping everyone healthy and to not put too much usage on your biggest and best players. Obviously, you want to find a balance because you don't want to limit too little usage for like an RJ Davis, for example. You want RJ Davis out on the floor as much as possible, but not so much that you're wearing him down. And so you have to strike that balance while also allowing the team to figure out who they are without him, right? That's part of it. And that's number 2. So number 1, you want to keep everyone healthy, so not too much usage. But number 2, you got to be able to figure out what you've got. And so in that regard, it's like, all right, we've got 11 scholarship players. We need to know what we've got with all of them. We think we know what we've got from practice, but some guys just perform differently when the lights come on in the game. And so we need to at least check that out. And so part of that is why I'm elated to have this extra regular season game. Carolina will play 32 instead of 31, is it gives you just one more opportunity to figure out who is this team. And that comes in the form of one of the issues with the 20-game ACC schedule is you don't get as many opportunities to figure out what you've got because you're playing so many high-level games. Thankfully, that extra game comes at Hawaii. Yes, it's a true road game, but they don't project to be a phenomenal team. And so you kind of get 5 bye games this year, and that's really helpful. So that's why, especially early, I like to play depth. Now, if Coach Davis does just utilize 8, maybe 9 players, here's the guaranteed 6 that are going to get the majority of the minutes, in my opinion, right now. RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau. Those are the 2 biggest no-brainers to me because they're your returning starters. Outside of that, the other 4 in some order would be Cade Tyson, Seth Trimble, Ian Jackson, and Drake Powell. That is what I anticipate will be the 6 guys to get a ton of minutes. Here's the problem. There's not a center or a power forward in that group. So to me, the 6 players you feel the best about are all backcourt or wing players. That said, then, the combination of the Jae'lyns, Washington and Withers, along with Zayden High and Ven-Allen Lubin are, if you've got 6 out of those others, you're going to use 2 to 3 of those a lot. Who's that going to be? Well, I would imagine, it's the Jae'lyns that have been in the system, and Zayden the longest. Jalen Washington the longest, followed by Jalen Withers and Zayden High the second longest. Zayden, we've seen, at least from these scrimmages, and we'll talk more about this in another question in a second, a good deal of growth, it seems like. But we can't really judge Ven-Allen Lubin yet because he's just finding his way in. I do think that regardless of that usage, I think James Brown is kind of the odd man out this year. Pat Kilby and I talked about that on Wednesday when we previewed him. So he's the only one I feel comfortable with saying that he would not have as many minutes this year. And so there's all that to say, in my opinion, right now, early July, the biggest competition this year is between Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers, Ven-Allen Lubin, and Zayden High for front court minutes. It's going to be wild to see. And because of the strength of the backcourt, if coach plays, like, let's say Cade Tyson or Drake Powell at the foursome, that might be limited in terms of those minutes only going to one of those 4 players very often. So we're going to have to keep our eyes out on that. In terms of how it will affect recruiting, yeah, I mean, potentially it will. It already affected keeping players after that season where Carolina declined their NIT invite. Now, it turned out great last year because you brought in the right combination of guys. That's what we're waiting to see, is even if a guy's maybe not getting as much playing time, but it's a winning culture, he might be willing to stick around. And how Carolina is utilizing their depth is not all that dissimilar from Kansas, who has also been in the 300s each of the last 3 years in terms of bench usage, but they're still getting guys. So I think it's about proving either that we're going to use you, not use you and abuse you, but like utilize you, I guess is a better word to say. But then also, or we are a winning culture. And so yes, there's obviously potential for, if I'm going to be guy 9, 10, or 11 on that bench, then I don't want to go there and sit. But here's the thing for a lot of these transfers is like, yeah, but I believe in me, or even some of these elite high school guys, I believe in me, and I think that I'll be in that top 8. So I want to come there and battle for my position. So if you've got gamers like that, it might not affect them. So there's just so much potentiality there. But yes, absolutely, it has the potential to negatively affect recruiting, but also it could have the potential to positively affect recruiting. If there's a guy that's like, I'm going to be in that top 8, so I'm going to go because I'm going to get a ton of minutes, right? So you can see how that could go either way. And yes, I think high school recruits, it dramatically affects them, especially those outside of that elite status range, because they realize, if I want to play here, I'm probably going to have to stick around for 2, 3, maybe 4 years to really, really get my shot. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But again, if they've got that dog in them, come and compete, and that's what I want to see. All right, next question comes from our guy UNC Minded JC Fox on Discord. He says, the team this year has a lot of players that will be expected to play dual roles. Which one is the most important to our success, and which one intrigues you the most? He gives an example: RJ at the 2, but also playing the 1. Cade Tyson at the 3/4. Drake Powell 3/4. Jalen Washington 5/4, etc. Those kind of dual roles. This is a great question from JC. First off, the more players that excel in this type of versatility, the infinitely better this team will be, because it gives the coaching staff all this multitude of options that they can roll with. And that is always a win. And so, first off, that's a big part of my answer. And then JC's question was most important to success and most intriguing to me. Most important, I think, has got to be RJ, but I'm just going to put that aside for now, because that to me is kind of a almost obvious. I'm actually going to go with Jalen Washington. Here's why. I think his growth and stepping into all this potential that we've heard about now for a couple years and getting 20 to 25 minutes a game, but being able to start at either the 5 or the 4 and transition between those front court roles, defend in space, do all those things, I think is really, really, really critical. And if he can do that, if he can be a versatile guy I can start at the 5 with whomever at the 4, and then switch to allow whomever else to go to the 5. And it's so, positionless basketball anyway, it might not be that big a deal. But I think Jalen Washington's ability to switch between these two roles is massively important to Carolina's success. And then in terms of most intriguing, I'm going to go with Cade Tyson there. And I think that's twofold. Number one, and this would be true also of Ven-Allen Lubin and the incoming freshman, we just haven't seen Cade Tyson outside of the scrimmages that we've gotten to see, thanks to Tar Heel for Real on YouTube, posting those scrimmages. But with Cade Tyson, it's such an intriguing mix of height, like size, shooting, but also being a guy that last year had more 2-point attempts than 3-point attempts. And so Cade's ability to float between the 3 and the 4 is very intriguing to me. So that'll be my answer for that one. Last question in this first segment. It kind of lives in this vein as well. Our guy, the Nintendo Nerd, who right now goes by J Wash Nerd on Discord, says, do you see Lubin as more of a 4 or a 5? I've seen conflicting opinions on this and just wanted to hear your take on it and why. In today's world, Nintendo Nerd, I see Ven-Allen Lubin as a 5. I think his desire to still go play like some of that in the paint, back down, back to the basket kind of role. I see it in his just kind of length capability that he has. In terms of what it is that it seems like he wants to do. Now it's today's 5 versus, like a typical 5 that you would think about. If this was Roy Williams era 2012, 15, whatever, I'd probably say more of a 4. But where we're at today, I'm going to say 5. Even if that means like Jalen Washington at the 4, I think he just profiles more that way right now. But it's ultimately all going to be about his usage and what Carolina wants to do with him and how he progresses, right? What he projects as his best skill set with this team. And if that is timing at the rim, getting some blocks, back to the basket sometimes kind of stuff, then yes, it's a 5. So for this team, for what I think he could provide for Carolina, my answer to you is 5. So there you go. Now, coming up, Zayden High is getting some good love from his performances in the 2 summer scrimmages. Is it for real? We're going to answer that question coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. What the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. T-Man 3728 on the Discord says, did y'all see Zayden in the alum game? Have been super busy, so I don't know. He had like 14 points, 8 boards, and 2 blocks. Isaac, what do you think about Zayden? Do you think he could be a big piece for us this year? All right, y'all. Zayden High had a strong showing in that first alumni game, right? Knocking down some shots, his usual level of just like great activity. I was like, okay. It is a pickup game, but that's encouraging. Let's see how Zayden backs it up. And then last week, we got to watch the second one. And I thought, all right, I feel like Zayden's backing this up. That's stacking performances. That's what you got to do as a player. I am seeing growth from year 1 to year 2. However, it's got to be more than just 2 pickup games in the summer, right? And that's fair. But I was very encouraged by that. Now, let's say this about anybody, Zayden High or anyone else. Regardless of who it is, I would caution all of us about taking too much away from a scrimmage. Now, that said, that's what we do, right? We overblow and exaggerate everything. So I get that. Number 2, regardless of how good or how bad a player plays in a scrimmage, I would also caution you again to not take too much away from it. We can all remember a scrimmage a couple years ago where Bo May hit a couple threes. I can't remember if it was live action or that one time the NCAA let us do that preseason charity event kind of thing. And people were asking all sorts of great, questions about Bo, like, oh, is Bo going to get playing? No, Bo's not going to get playing time. It is what it is. So again, regardless of who it is and regardless of how good or bad, I would caution you about taking too much away. But on Zayden, I will say this. It's not nothing, right? We know this is a supremely talented basketball player in Zayden High. We know this is somebody that has been working his butt off all summer long to show that growth from freshman to sophomore, which, as we know, is typically where you see the biggest level of improvement. And like at a macro level, right? There's micro adjustments later, but macro level from freshman to sophomore year, I expect big things. Yes. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what we've seen from Zayden High at this point. Now, your question was, do I think he could be a big piece for us? I'm not ready to say that yet in terms of big, but if you took big out of that and said, do you think Zayden High would be a piece for us? I think so. I'm ready to say this right now already. I expect Zayden High to be more important to this team than I previously did before those scrimmages. I'm seeing enough growth from what he's doing, even in those scrimmages, outside of like the more strict parameters of team dynamics once we get into practice in October, right? But right now, I definitely will say that I expect him to be a bigger contributor than I expected previously for this season. Yes, bigger than last year, but bigger than my expectations for him coming in. So we'll see how that grows and evolves. Great question. Next one. This is another one from Edward Beth on Discord. Noticed in the alum game that the unit that was together the most on, this is the second game, by the way, when the team was legitimately divided into alums versus current players, that the unit together most on the floor was Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble, Jalen Withers, and Jalen Washington. Do you think this could be the unit Hubert wants to start if they mesh well together? And then actually after this question in Discord, there were some funny responses. Whoa, no transfers in that lineup? Seth over and Seth over Cade, Tyson? Yeah, that's the lineup that started the scrimmage and was played together the most. Shocked me also. None of these are me. These are all other people. Wow, that is shocking. I'm not sure I like that. Here's what I say about this lineup. This is the first public scrimmage. And again, scrimmage is a key word there. in which this whole team was playing another unit instead of it being divided up with some alum and playing against each other. And you've just pretty recently gotten the transfers and freshmen in. I think this was simply just a matter of, hey, this is a scrimmage against alum. Let's just roll out a starting 5 of all returning players. Remember, there are 6 returners this year. Those 5 that started in Zayden High. And you also notice Cade Tyson was the last person off the bench in this scrimmage. All of this is not what you're going to see come November 4th when Carolina tips its first game. Now, might we see a 3-guard lineup? Yeah. Might we see Seth Trimble as part of that starting lineup? Yeah. I do not think you should read anything into this being the starting 5. I think it's simply a matter of, hey, let's get returners out there to start and be the main guys in this scrimmage game against our alum. That's literally all I would take away from that. So, hey, it's the summer. We haven't had a ton of time to work with the newcomers. Let's get returners out there. Not about Seth over Cade. It's just literally a summer scrimmage. Just kind of enjoy it for the pickup that it was. I'll say that. So great question. All right, last one in this segment. This comes from Drew on Discord. This is a great question about reclassifying. Are there any deadlines or rules on reclassifying? Maybe you have to be a certain age, etc. So that's the questions from Drew. Great question, Drew. And I know others probably have the same question. This is actually, honestly, less an NCAA thing, whereas like for the NCAA, there are rules on when you have to leave the draft to come back to school, things like that. There's not an NCAA mandated, this is when you have to enroll to be eligible to play basketball this season. It's honestly less NCAA specific and more institution specific. As our pal Vin Diesel said in the Discord, the deadline is academic calendar related, right? Just meaning if you want to go to school X, let's say, I said X, so let's say you want to go to Xavier and their first day of class is August 21st, whenever it is that their admissions department says you have to be in and enrolled and ready to go, that's what the deadline is. Doesn't have to be a certain age, right? We all know people who get into college at a younger age because they're really smart. And if you're good enough to play basketball at 16 and that's when you enrolled in college, knock yourself out, whatever it is. So as long as you have the credits to graduate high school early, are accepted to the college university you're going to, and as long as you can enroll in time, you're good to go to reclassify. Right? Like Jaron Stevenson, I feel like it was pretty late in the summer last year when he did that. And so basically, if you can be a freshman in time at that school, you're good to go. You've made it. That's all the rules are. And I know that seems funny given all the typical NCAA regulations on everything, but it really is just like, oh, you want to come to our school? All right, you're accepted. You can get here on time. You can start taking class on time. You're good to go. Interesting, huh? That it's that unlegalistic as it typically is as in things with the NCAA. Now, yesterday was the 4th of July. So I actually got several fun summer and holiday related questions that we're going to tackle to wrap up the show today. Several fun lists. They're going to be a lot of fun. And I want to know your answers to them as well. We'll get to all that in just a second. Right after I tell you about GameTime, going to MLB games in the summer is one of my favorite all-time things. Literally yesterday, I went to the Braves game. The game, the food, the people, everything that's part of the experience, I love it. And I'm excited to make all new memories this summer at the ballpark, just like I did yesterday. But thankfully, you ain't got to sweat high-priced last-minute tickets because you've got GameTime, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, making getting tickets easier and faster. In fact, prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and a lowest price guarantee. With all of that, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying your tickets. How about Home Run Derby tickets coming up Monday, July 15th at Globe Life Field? $157 is the cheapest ticket I found. But my favorite ticket that I found is this ticket just up the first baseline for $380 each. everything around it is like $500-$600 and above. Man, I would love to grab that ticket. So again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, I've got 3 holiday-related questions for you. These are a lot of fun. Play along wherever you're listening or watching. Sebastian asks this. In light of July 4th, what are your 5 favorite USA-related movies? Doesn't have to be specific to 4th of July, just to America. I love this question, Sebastian. For those of you who don't know, I'm a movie buff. I love movies. It's not just like, there's nothing going on. Let's watch a movie. It's like a hobby for me. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go 5 down to 1. My number 4 choice, I think I actually want to move higher up, but the others are more like currently appropriately related. And you'll understand everything I'm saying in just a second. Number 5, this is my cheese ball choice, is Air Force One. It's a Harrison Ford movie where he's the president. Air Force One gets taken over by some like Russian separatists or something. I can't remember, but it's all about him like taking back the plane, even as a hostage on his own plane. It's so great. And at the end, he goes, "Get off my plane." I love it. It's a great movie. Number 4 on my list is the movie that actually might go, like if we were talking serious movies, would probably be number 1 on this list. But man, it's an all-time favorite. I can hear the snare drum of the music score right now, and that's Apollo 13. I remember watching this movie in theater for the first time, and it's always been one of my favorite movies. I love the story, obviously the historicity of it, but I love Tom Hanks as an actor. He's one of my favorites, and multiple other people that are in it, Gary Sinise, all sorts of folks. So Apollo 13 is number 4 on this list for me. Number 3 is D2, Mighty Ducks 2. This is the one where they go to like the Junior World Olympics or something to represent America. And so it's the original Mighty Ducks team, plus they pick up a couple guys, like a rodeo cowboy. I can't even think of his character name right now, but like Dean Portman, right? Is that the guy's name that joins Fulton Reed as like the Smash Bros? Kenny Wu is like this figure skater that joins the team. I think that's it. Oh, Julie the Cat Gaffney is a goalie from Bangor, Maine. I don't know how my brain is finding these names, but there you go. And they go compete. I think Iceland is like the bad guys in the movie, and then of course end up beating them, but need all sorts of new trick plays, and it's a whole thing. All right. Number 2, we're actually staying on the ice for this one. Miracle, the story about America beating Russia in the Olympics in the semifinals, and that whole story, picking the team with Coach Herb Brooks and everything that led up to it. And I just hear there was a time when they played poorly in the movie, and they had to keep skating these hard skating drills, and he just kept blowing his whistle again, until finally somebody said that they play for America instead of the college team that they play for. Anyway, I love Miracle. It's a fun movie. It's great. And is well done, right? Like it is pretty accurate to the history of it, and all that kind of stuff. And number 1, come on, man. You already know what it is. Independence Day, baby. We will not go quietly into the night. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day, right? What a great movie. I can just hear Will Smith walking through the desert, kicking the thing, and what's that smell? Oh man, what a fun movie. And like Cousin Eddie from from Christmas Vacation is like, "Hello, boys, I'm back." Great movie. Love to see it. All right, I'd love to hear your list. So fun. Next, two more questions here. Mason asks, July 4th is this week. What are your 5 favorite things to eat / drink at a 4th of July cookout? I love this one. Number 5, give me a hot dog bar situation. Various types of hot dogs, brats, whatever you want to get out there. All sorts of toppings, all sorts of condiments, dealer's choice. I love doing that with like nachos or anything. But for 4th of July, it's like the dogs, right? Brats or hot dogs, whatever it is. you know, you can get a chili dog or Chicago style, whatever you want to do. I love bringing a community of people together like that and just like basically build your own hot dog bar. That's super fun. Number 4 for me, sweet tea. I'm a Georgia boy. I grew up with sweet tea. Like when people say you order tea and they're like sweet or unsweet. Unsweet tea doesn't exist, folks. Sweet tea is all there is. Number 3 on my list, watermelon. Got to have a good, fresh watermelon. Seed spitting contest. It's just nostalgic and iconic. Number 2, fresh corn on the cob. I love to get corn on the cob, shuck it. Got to get all that butter in there. My family growing up, we would just get a stick of butter and you get the little corn on the cob pokers and you just roll it in the stick of butter. That way it gets nice and just ooey gooey. And then you just pour yourself a little bed of salt and pepper, excuse me. And then you roll the corn on the cob in that and it's ready to go, baby. That's a good corn on the cob. Number 1 for me though, homemade ice cream. I can remember like at church gatherings growing up or out on my back deck, just like the old hand turn ice cream crank and you pour the rock salt in the side. Homemade ice cream is just, it's choice. I feel like Chick-fil-A's ice cream, like an ice cream, tastes like homemade. Anyway, that's my choice. Great question, Mason. Love that. Final question. This comes from Jackie. The Summer Olympics are coming up later this month in Paris. 3 questions from Jackie here. Are you into the Olympics? Yes, Jackie. Massively so. Number 2, if so, do you prefer summer or winter? I love them both, but on the whole, I'm going to go summer. Just because there's more events, more sports, and I love that. And then thirdly, which sports are you most looking forward to? Funny thing is for me, Jackie, even though I love summer as a whole better, there's some of the events that I like at the Winter Olympics better. So I'll give you my 3 favorites. Number 1, short track speed skating, like where they just go in the real tight loop. Dude, y'all, it is, especially the relays, it is insane how crazy it is and the strategy of it. I'm all in on it. I absolutely love it. I remember our guy, Apollo Antonono, it was the first one I remember from that. It's so fun. Anyway, number 2 is snowboard cross. That's like when they are up in the chute and the flap opens and then they like race to see which snowboarder can get down the hill first. I remember like the first time it was in the Olympics and what was her name? Lindsay Jacobellis like fell, right? Oh man. All in on snowboard cross. And then number 3, the half pipe in snowboarding, where they get to do all the trick, you know, like Shaun White or now Chloe Kim. Man, love those. So those are probably my 3 favorite events. Oddly enough, they're all winter. Man, I didn't even mention like downhill skiing and bobsled. I just love the Winter Olympic, like the individual ones. But on the whole, again, Summer Olympics. And so Summer Olympics, gymnastics is wildly impressive to me. Like there's nothing that beats watching like the power and the grace of Simone Biles. Like it is insane to me, but I'm gonna be all dialed in on all of this. Like I try to watch as much as I can. I DVR everything and literally try to watch it all. I love the Olympics so much. So great question. I love that, Jackie. All right. Fun mailbag episode, everyone. We'll do another one probably here in a couple weeks. So if you want to get your mailbag questions in, go ahead and do that now. Why wait? You can do that on Discord in our mailbag channel, or you can just DM me on Twitter, email the show, lockedontarheels@gmail.com, whatever you want to do. All right. If you haven't subscribed to the show on audio and video, make sure you do that so that you get every episode coming out to you. If you're not part of that Discord, it's easy to join. The link's in the show notes and it's free. We'd love to have you. Absolutely love to have you. All right, y'all. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday. But until then, peace.